Hello and welcome to the Happy Little Futures podcast. Let's begin by taking a nice deep breath. We'll breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just release with that any tension that you can feel across your body. And relax in to listen to this podcast. So, it's my 20th episode today, which is quite exciting. I'm not sure, at one point I thought I'd ever get past 2. So getting to 20 for me is quite an achievement. And I thought, sort of as part of that, I'd do a little bit of a 5 things I've learnt through meditation style thing. The only thing is that I've learnt so much more than 5 things through meditation. But as I started to write the list, it started to get a bit ridiculous. And I went, I'm just going to pick the top 5. So there's loads of things, as I've just said, that I've learned. However, I think the first major thing that I've learned, which actually when I wrote it down led into one of the second most important things I've learned, was that I wasn't connected to myself, which led into the second thing that I wrote down, because actually that's a very negative way of putting it. And as soon as I wrote that I wasn't connected to myself previously, I rewrote it as I learned how to reconnect to myself. And it immediately put that positive spin on, which I'll come back to in a minute. So I learned that sort of how to reconnect to myself. I learned how to discover, well, I didn't learn how to discover. I did discover who I am. I always wanted to be a mum. I learnt in school that I wanted to do geology and go on to do anything geology related. So going on to be an environmental consultant and stuff was like a big thing for me. However, looking back right through all of that time, I didn't really truly know who I was deep down, who I was comfortable being and all of that sort of stuff. Through meditation, I have come to learn who I am, and almost meet myself as if a fresh new person has walked through the door and I've been introduced to them from the start. And I was watching Encanto earlier with my youngest. We were having a bit of a chill time, sort of watching that together, and I was thinking actually about how, put simply, if you've seen Encanto, they sort of start off as all these people with these specific roles, and then by the end of it, they sort of show who they truly are. They sort of reconnect with themselves in a different way throughout the film, and then become sort of like more a person than a figure. And I was watching it, and I thought to myself then, actually, that's kind of simplified how I've come to learn who I am through meditation, and rediscover who I've actually always been deep down when I look back and see. It's just that I never was comfortable enough to accept myself and to not really care what other people think, and to learn to sort of see myself as a friend, ultimately. So reconnecting myself with myself as a human deep down inside has been the number one thing that meditation has taught me. It's been a massive gift for me, and I am gonna talk about this in more detail another time when I'm doing probably next week, because it's all on my mind. So I'll probably talk about it next week and go into a bit more detail about how that feels, how I discovered that I hadn't previously been connected to myself, and what that meant for me then going forwards. As I said, I wrote down I wasn't connected to myself as the first way that I explained my first point, and immediately changed it to I learned how to reconnect with myself. And reframing things in a positive way, or even just reframing things in general, is something else that I've learned through meditation. I've already spoken previously about, I think it was last week actually, about how I've been practicing gratitude for a number of years now, almost before I started meditation, sort of in a formal sense. And practicing that gratitude and then pairing it up with meditating and learn to be present and creating that ability to notice in the moment, like notice the present moment and notice what is happening in the present moment, has enabled me to reframe things within milliseconds of it happening, into a more positive thing, or into something that hasn't necessarily, I haven't necessarily seen that way of thinking about it before. I've always been a good person for seeing the other side of things and sort of seeing the flip side. I've not always been a good person at seeing it in my own life, or even accepting necessarily the flip side, or even seeing it in a way that's relevant to me in a simple moment, like I wasn't connected to myself, turning into I've learnt how to reconnect to myself. It's that sort of glass half empty, glass half full sort of thing in that instance. However, in some instances, sort of the way that I've always seen the other side of things is, oh, well, he said this and she said that, but he could be feeling this and she could be feeling that, and sort of seeing the two sides of the argument. This is a very different way, in a way, of noticing in the present moment something that's happened or something that is happening, and being able to reframe it in a way that brings out the positive, brings out the actual reasoning behind something. Sort of, even, again, self-care is something that I'm going to come on to, but even seeing self-care as selfish and actually turning it over and going, it's not a selfish moment for me to go have a bath or something like that. It's actually a necessary moment for me to keep functioning and supporting my family and those around me in the way that I am, if I am to go have a bit of time just to switch off in a bath or whatever I'm doing. So learning to reframe and see the positive is another big contender for what meditation has taught me. And it's learning, more than anything, it's learning that in the moment and noticing in the moment where that positivity is. So that's been fantastic, and that's, again, it's a real gift to have that ability, and it's something that anyone and everyone can learn. I've spoken before about sort of rewiring your brain and stuff like that. That's all this is it's stuff that I've rewired my brain through meditation to do. So my third little thing is kind of similar to what I've just been saying about noticing in the moment the negative or the reframe, but it's noticing how I'm actually feeling, how I'm feeling inside, but also how I'm feeling physically. So I've mentioned before that I have fibromyalgia, and that I can't remember the exact description of it, but it's something that sort of, there's a lot of widespread pain, and I've sort of always noticed the pain and stuff like that from the fibromyalgia. However, through meditation, I've been able to notice more specifically where I'm carrying pain, more specifically where I'm carrying tension, and actually begin to label it in some instances to certain emotions and feelings that I'm feeling, or certain things that I'm carrying around with me, which I for example, when I'm stressed, my jaw clenches. I clench my jaw so tight when I am stressed, and noticing in any moment that I'm clenching my jaw, I can immediately label where this is probably coming from, and it allows me to then begin to both release that emotion, that unwanted feeling, but also it allows me to release that physical feeling and loosen off my jaw and just sort of gently begin to open and relax it, and consciously in that moment make the decision to well, I've said it before, to release stress and tension throughout my body. And that has been a massive thing that I've learned. And that's something that it's not just, I mean, at the moment I'm going on about my body. I started off saying it's about my mind as well. Likewise, in my mind, I can tell when I'm starting to get overwhelmed. I've got a certain, like, thick fog, fuzzy feeling that I get, and it's hard to explain. It's sort of all over the top of my head and into my forehead, and I can feel it coming down. And I know when I'm starting to get that it's going to go one of two ways. Either I'm going to get lost in this fog and I'm going to struggle to get back out of it, or I'm going to explode and struggle to find, like, that'll be my way of trying to get out of it, sort of trying to burst out of it in that way. Everything will get too much. I'll get overwhelmed. So in those moments, being able to notice and label those feelings and both the physical symptoms and the mental symptoms of those has been really important and really pinnacle, actually, in me being able to do what I do now and move on to sort of coaching myself, coaching others, but move on to learn how to become a coach and stuff like that. I couldn't have done that without that mental clarity. And it's given me that presence of mind, again, with the self-care, which I'm coming on to in a minute. It's given me the presence of mind to say it's okay if I take that moment for self-care. It's okay if I let go of this feeling right now and I don't need to carry it with me. It's okay if I'm feeling that, but likewise, I don't need to necessarily carry it in the way that I'm carrying it in my body, in the way that is then causing me physical pain. So that's something big that meditation has taught me in that sense. I've mentioned already multiple times about self-care now. And meditation has taught me that self-care is both necessary and not something to feel guilty about. It's taught me that it's okay to take time for me. It's taught me that it's allowed me to be present with myself in noticing that when I don't take that time, I don't actually end up able to function properly. Like I said, I can become overwhelmed, or I can get lost in a pit of tasks and things that I need to do, and then I'm flitting from one thing to another and I'm not actually getting anything done, and it's completely unproductive. I'm unable to be very present for the kids. I'm scrolling my phone more. All these different things that I'm sure I'm not the only one out there that has discovered that when they get too wrapped up in their thoughts, too caught up in what's going on, they start to actually lose themselves to technology, in particular for me, but I'm sure I'm not the only one, that when you're feeling down, you automatically pick up your phone more. You automatically turn to your phone and sort of go, oh, I'm just going to flick through this, or find yourself on your phone without realising that you're actually doing it. And meditation has helped me to notice more in those moments that I'm doing that, which has then enabled me to move on from doing that. But it's also allowed me to notice more in those moments what my body needs, what my mind needs. And in those cases, a lot of the time it is self-care. And I mean, self-care can be anything from when I'm walking to school to pick the kids up, instead of flicking through my phone or sort of just powering on ahead, lost in thoughts, I actually take the moment to meditate as I'm walking. It can be, instead of sitting there flicking through my phone or going off and going, oh, I need to scrub the toilet and clean the floor and wash the dishes and do this and do that. Instead of doing that, self-care for me can be going, actually, what I really need to do right now is just cuddle up with my kids. Like I said, I did that. I did that with my youngest today, watching Encanto, and having that moment, that presence to sort of go, no, I need to be with my kids, and that presence with them is what's going to help me to recoup, to be more mentally present for them, It doesn't matter if the dishes aren't done. It doesn't matter if the floor's not vacuumed. It doesn't matter if there's still yesterday's pants in the bathroom from 3 kids or whatever. That's not important. What is important is the here and now. And the here and now with my kids, the time that I get to spend with them, the time that I get to spend with my husband. Every second is a gift. We don't know what's around the corner. So enjoy that moment that you have, and use that as self-care. Give yourself permission to let go of the other things that need doing. Have the bath that will mean that you feel more refreshed to face the rest of the day, the rest of the week, however long. Take that moment. And I think it's so easy to get wrapped up nowadays in everything else going on, in technology, in news, in social media, in the homework that needs doing. There's this that needs doing, that club's on, this needs doing, there's food around the corner that needs to be got. It's so easy to get wrapped up in that, but actually coming back to the simple things and coming back to the here and now and what's important to you and what can be self-care to you in those moments. It's being able to have that presence of mind to do that, I feel, is a real gift. And being able to let go of any guilt when you do that is triply so a gift. So that's another thing that meditation has taught me. And again, that sort of links into that final one that I've got written down as my main one, which is just, it's taught me how to let go of frustration, anxiety, and how to just reconnect with the moment and the present and my children and what's important to me. And sometimes I can be having a really rough day and there'll be kids screaming all over the shop. There'll be I'll be feeling completely like I'm drowned. I'll be stressed. I'll be anxious. There'll be stuff going on elsewhere that needs doing. And I've learned through meditation how I can let go of things in a moment, how I can release through that practice that I was talking about the other week, where we practicing the scales on the cello so that I knew where to place my fingers so they were in tune. Meditating and practicing skills and counting breaths and imagining leaves on a stream. Through those things, in a guided meditation in particular, I have learned that I can apply them in moments through my day. It enables me to draw upon those skills that I've learned, those micro meditations as I call them, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that calls them that, but it enables me to draw upon those micro meditations. And if I am feeling really stressed and there's a gazillion things going on, I can picture them as leaves on a stream and let them go. And that enables me then to become present with the moment and present with my kids and reconnect with myself and enjoy life and my family for what they are. And I think that's really important. And it's not just anxiety and frustration. We've recently lost a couple of family friends. One in particular, it hit me quite hard the day after the funeral, that loss. And I've sort of used meditation over the past few days in particular to sort of come to terms with that. And using micro meditations throughout the day to sort of... I've needed to feel that grief, but also to let go of the upset and grief, I suppose, that they never got to meet the kids and stuff like that, and reframe it so that actually what they were doing in the time that I had, that they could have met the kids, that was actually a bigger gift to them than I realised it was at the time. And so that was sort of reframing it to actually be, it's okay that they didn't meet my kids, because in that moment they had their own family that they were able to spend that time with, and they'd not had that for a very long time. So being able to notice that I'm feeling that grief, let go of it a little bit, reframe it. Again, it helps to let go of it. And then I've just been bringing my attention back to the present, back to what I do have in this moment, back to what I am able to do with the people that I love and that I care about that are around still. And all of these things have all linked in and all worked really well and allowed me to function the past few days after that funeral. And I think this is what meditation is. It's, if you practice, and especially, as I've said, with guided meditation, as you get more experienced, you can meditate unguided, and you can do it unguided regardless, but I do think there's a lot to be said for a guided meditation initially. As you practice these skills, they become just part of this little toolbox in your head that you can just flip open and go, right, I'm feeling this at the moment. I don't want to feel this. I've got other things that I need to do. I've got other people that I want to actually be present with in this moment. I want to just release this, and I want to let it go, or I want to transform this, or I need this form of self-care in this moment. Being able to do that and use meditation techniques that you've learned through guided meditations over that time is fantastic. It's a real gift, and it's something that I want for everyone, which is why I do what I do at the end of the day, isn't it? It's something that I want for everyone, and it's something that I've really enjoyed learning and going on the journey of discovery with. So it's quite a spiritual end to this particular podcast. But yeah, if you're interested in sort of my journey a little bit more, if you've not listened to the podcast from the start, have a listen, because I talk more about where I've come from, and how that journey sort of transformed over time. But also, get in touch, drop me a message on Facebook, Instagram, email, info@happylittlefutures.co.uk, or anything like that. Just drop me a message and have a chat. Join me for a weekly 30-minute meditation. If you sign up to the newsletter, you can actually get a free weekly reset. So that's on me. That's my gift to you, to help you just begin that journey of your own in transformation, in sort of releasing stress and anxiety and tension, or whatever it is that you need in that moment. So I do look forward to hearing from you, and I hope that you do get in touch. And as always, let's take a nice deep breath into our tummies and release. And I will speak to you soon.